Conversation doesn't go as expected a lot of time. You go in gung-ho thinking, okay, I'm going to get a pat on my back.
So there is a very systemic glitch in the entire communication approach.
That's something that one is never really prepared for. There is an aspiration for authority, for position, but not ownership for the responsibility that comes packaged along with it.
At the beginning of the year, usually when you start the financial year at your company, there's always a goal-setting meeting with your managers, your peers, right? And in those meetings, frequently, your managers, if they are good to you, they'll give you sort of a roadmap as to what's ahead for the year, what you're supposed to really accomplish. And if you do that, there's a chance that you get a carrot at the end of the year. The carrot could be different kind of carrots. Could be pay increase, could be promotion, could be advancement to different roles and bigger responsibilities and all those things. Now, at the end of the year, you go into the appraisal and the performance review conversation thinking you have really checked all the boxes, right? You have really hit the mark on the head. But the conversation doesn't go as expected a lot of time. You go in gung-ho thinking, okay, I'm going to get a pat on my back and probably a pay increase and also a promotion, hopefully to a manager role or a leadership role. And the conversation goes sideways multiple times. And it's not necessary that you failed at achieving your goals. It's just that the organizational priorities may not have been met. There are tons of reasons.
So there is a very systemic glitch in this entire communication view, right? Of there being a goal setting at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, you go and you get a bag full of surprises. And of course, there can be surprises for all the right reasons, right? However, a lot of it emerges because of a communication gap or a communication breakdown between the manager and the employee, the person on the hot seat. A lot of times, the employee on the hot seat expects or anticipates that the feedback will always be initiated from the manager. And there comes in the first big glitch in the entire communication approach. The employee has to take accountability and ownership of getting after the manager to get feedback a lot more frequently than just once in a year or half yearly and then year end. Right?
The transition from IC to manager. In my observation and experience, that's something that one is never really prepared for in a structured and focused manner. Very few organizations invest and support that shift, which is through, let's say, first-time manager training, as they're often called. Right? So what ends up happening, Arjun, over time is that after our school, after our MBA, we're at the best, we're exposed to some sort of group projects to work with other people and try and make sure that the deadline is met and the project file is nicely printed out and submitted to the professor in charge. There's nothing beyond which prepares one for managerial or leadership role. And it's always learn as you go. And in many cases, that's where the real fundamental gap arises, because the person who's getting appraised or the person who's appraising the particular individual are both not adequately prepared. And often, therefore, we find the situation where ideally you've had your conversation at the start of the year and the measurement or the performance management is happening at the end of 12 months.
What I've realized is that organizations don't promote you to a manager and then they start grooming you and developing you. Organizations want someone who's already displaying these competencies, and hence it becomes your responsibility how to start identifying what are you not doing well, what are you doing well beyond your excellence in your current job. Use feedback, use mentors, use your own gut self-reflection, but arrive at these gaps and then start working on them. Also pointing out one common thread which I have personally experienced, and that is this big umbrella term called emotional intelligence. You may be a great performer, very good at your job, but again, an important part of a managerial or a leadership trait is how emotionally sound, intelligent, balanced are you.
Visibility is also key. Often Satyam alluded to it earlier in terms of mentioning the presence, and also whether the delivery of the particular individual is consistent, is continuously of a high bar or not, because if there's too much fluctuation there and there's unpredictability, that's often a red flag when it comes to promotions. The people engagement, the people interaction aspect of it is key for sure, because you really want someone who can carry along people. And the other big stumbling block that I've seen in my experience is also where there is an aspiration for authority, for position, but not ownership for the responsibility that comes packaged along with it. So it's always attractive to aspire for becoming a manager, senior manager, vice president, but one should also realize that along with it comes a lot of responsibility and accountability, which cannot then be deflected off to say that A or B or C did not perform. because the buck then really stops with you. So that's a core signal that people really watch out for when looking at promotion cases.
And amusingly, there is another conflicting reason that I have observed often why high performers don't get promoted. Is because they'll also become very indispensable to the role.
Yeah.
Right?
Being too good at what you do can backfire, huh?
Absolutely. Of course, there can be a cultural mismatch. There can be a values mismatch. There can be an expectations mismatch. Be a little objective around it and make sure that you have your blind spot completely clarified. And there are ways to do that, right? It's not rocket science and it's not even magic anymore, right? There are simple ways to do it. Reach out to people, do a psychometric testing, just have conversations with some older employees in the organization, and you will arrive at that clarity. And once you get that clarity, then make choices.